but he's still got the focus of his team. Tonight, we understand, a little bit banged up.
Absolutely. They've lost 10 straight coming in, have the Golden Eagles, and they're without 4 of their top players. Tay Hardy, who's been out since November. Tyler Stevenson, who was a late scratch preseason all-conference player, not available for the Golden Eagles, along with the trio of Jason Pierre and Mo Arnold as well, as they are both out. And North Texas starts off where they left off against UAB with a bucket from Thomas Bell, as he looks to get back on track after a rough day at the arena down in Birmingham.
First time all year that foul trouble really caught up to Thomas Bell, but you see Grant McCaslin wanting to go through really the heart and soul of his team. T-Bell has been so important. And speaking of attacks, well, the attack will continue here as Southern Miss shows they're ready to get off that 8-hour bus ride and get after it.
It has been an 8-hour bus ride, as freezing temperatures and cold weather in the Dallas-Fort Worth area canceling flights all throughout the week. And Southern Miss was one of those flights. They instead elected to bus 8 hours from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, about 600 miles. And they did make it in time for tip-off today, of course, by plenty of time, as they arrived early this morning. Pinckney can't contribute to the three-point play, as there's the starting 5 for North Texas. It's been the same starting 5 for Grant McCaslin in all 25 games so far this season, whereas Southern Miss had finally found some rhythm with their starting 5, had 4 straight games with the same 5 out there. However, 2 of those starters unavailable tonight as Thomas Bell loses it on the baseline.
North Texas offensively likes to get as many paint touches as they can, trying to pass the ball for an extra pass. That time the extra pass may have been deflected. Either way, it didn't get to Thomas Bell in good fashion. And, you know, for Southern Miss, they started on the attack with Pinckney. Boy, there's going to be a little more weight on his shoulders tonight, and he's been their hottest player through Conference USA play.
It's really an all-around player, plays really well toward the rim. You saw that on the opening possession. Here's a long try from just inside the three-point line for Isaiah Moore. Left it short, and North Texas with the carom. But that's the biggest question for the Golden Eagles throughout this game, Hank, is the fact that Southern Miss has to find a scorer. Stevenson not available, Arnold not available. Can they rely on guys like Bolden, Pinckney, and Moore to lead the way?
Well, and Stevenson being out is big, both in terms of scoring, but especially on the rebounding front. North Texas and their patented slow-tempoed offense, slowest tempo in the nation.
And Murray winds that shot clock all the way down. That never hit the rim, so the violation is there. North Texas already with their second turnover here of the early minutes. North Texas, out of 358 teams in Division I college basketball, they are dead last, 358 in adjusted tempo in the metric put out there by the KenPom website, kenpom.com. And his rankings have North Texas as one of the most efficient defenses in the country, but they sure do slow it down. Southern Miss taking advantage of that as Napper goes all the way to the rim.
Waylon Napper with a big bandage above the right eye, so we talk about a banged-up Southern Miss team. Even the guys that are playing are showing the wear and tear.
Napper is an experienced starter, 9 starts this season for the Golden Eagles. He has them with an early 2-point lead. Here's Abu Usman backing down Isaiah Moore, and his hook drops for his first bucket.
Perhaps no player in the Conference USA ranks has improved as much as Abu Usman from freshman to sophomore year. He's really not panicking, very patient in the post.
Came in with 2 rebounds to 200. He's already hit that mark, and expect him to fly past that 200 career rebound mark. And now you see Tyler Perry checking in. We'll have more from him later on, because he was the hero in the last game for North Texas, a team that is now 13-1 in conference play, a perfect 8-0 record on the road. They are one of 2 teams in the country. Them and number 1 Gonzaga is the only undefeated teams on the road, and they kept that going against UAB on Saturday.
So hard to win in league with regularity, even harder to do it on the road. So that's been a big part of why North Texas sits atop the Conference USA standings. And Perry's been a huge part of that, obviously. He may come off the bench, but he's playing starter minutes with starter numbers.
Very unselfish player. Even got asked by Coach McCaslin as Usman drops his second bucket. But Tyler Perry asked by Grant McCaslin earlier in the season, after the great start that he had as a transfer from the junior college level, if he wanted to start. He said, no, if it's not broke, let's not try and fix it. And the starters have remained the same through all 25 games so far. Moore lines it up from 3. Offensive rebound reeled in by Pinckney under the basket, and a fresh 20 for Southern Miss. It's back to Moore up at the top of the key, and he can't get that one to fall.
Good box out by Bell. The first time Pinckney's able to get in there and get the rebound. The second time, no.
Bell on the baseline. Had just 3 points in that win over UAB. Lost his defender, finds Usman for the slam.
Well, unselfish basketball, certainly. Thomas Bell played through it. A lot of people expected a whistle. He didn't let that bother him when the whistle didn't develop. He just looked for Usman, who's now 3 of 3 from the floor, and the Mean Green has a very nice record when Usman has 5 or more made field goals.
6 points already. Baseline drive, that one turned over. It goes straight into the hands of Perry. Now North Texas wants to run with it. Reuben Jones.
Dagger by Tyler Perry.
2 straight games against Conference USA West opponents where he has come down to the final seconds trailing and puts his team up with a clutch 3-pointer. He's really good late in the shot clock, but now I've got to ask you the question, which one's colder, the ice on the roads throughout DFW this week or the ice in Tyler Perry's veins? Because he's been that clutch for North Texas as we take a look at the box score from this past Saturday.
Well, he really willed North Texas to victory with a career-high 25. You see what he was doing from downtown, but in this game, you also see he's capable of driving and getting the floater. He was fouled in the act. And for North Texas, a team that doesn't shoot the free throws as well as Grant McCaslin would like, this is one guy who has carried them at the stripe among the nation's best, and he's been very solid 15 feet away as I jinx him.
Can't hit that one. Normally an 88% free throw shooter, even garnering some of the MVP chants from the student section a couple feet away during his trip to the line. He has instantly become a fan favorite because of his humble attitude, his hard-working ability, and coming out of the JUCO level, just his pure scoring ability and electricity on the offensive end. That one flushed home from Southern Miss. However, an offensive foul called prior to the bucket.
Well, Southern Miss trying to take some aggression out on the rim here. And they'll eschew the deep shot, trying to go downtown inside the lane for Moore. Moore can definitely rim rattle it. But now they end up with the foul. And that wipes off a little bit of momentum.
North Texas with a 7-0 run that would have been halted by that slam dunk from the Golden Eagles. That one tipped away, kept in bounds by the official near side. Bell heady enough to just keep a hold of that basketball. 6 to shoot for Perry, late in the shot clock. Steps back, lost his defender in the process, and he knocks it down.
Well, the switch back, the step back, and the kiss, the mid-range jumper is not what you talk about with Tyler Perry, and yet he shows he's really a 3-level scorer and has been all year.
North Texas has made their last 3 from the field. Tyler Perry making his first from the field after that one free throw. Kick outside. Can Southern Miss halt the run? They did so, what looks like draw a foul as Moore was hit from behind by Thomas Bell. First foul on Bell here on the evening.
Well, Bell knows what it's like to have to sit on the bench. His last experience at UAB was really one of those games where foul trouble relegated him to the Pines almost the entire game, essentially in crunch time. And Southern Miss doing a nice job of mixing up the downtown attack and the inside penetration. They're starting to get some fouls to go their way. That's how you muddy things up, especially in a matchup where obviously these two teams are trending totally different directions.
Aaron Scott called for the foul that time as it went down low to Moore. Isaiah Moore, the junior out of Columbia, South Carolina, transfer from St. John's. He was the scoring threat last time out for Southern Miss in a loss against Marshall. Had 19 points going along with 9 rebounds as he was closing in on double-double. He's actually had 5 straight games with 10-plus points to his total, so keep an eye on number 11 in the black uniform to catch fire as one of the scoring threats for this Southern Miss team. Here's the drive from McBride. Had that one knocked away. Kept in bounds by Napper. Fantastic play on the defensive end. And now the Golden Eagles want to slow it down on their half of the floor.
Pretty good job crisscrossing across the timeline. But again, they're adamant about going inside. And you got to get some of those to drop. Tyler Moorman, a good post player, provides a lot of energy but couldn't connect over the top of Usman.
Aaron Scott was there to clean up the board. 5-point lead for North Texas early on. Perry with the floater. Looked like he may have wanted Usman to go after it. Instead, Aaron Scott goes after it. Almost had the offensive board as he falls to the hardwood. But ultimately, Southern Miss gets the possession.
Normally when you get good shots, if they miss, you have a chance at an offensive rebound, and that's something Grant McCaslin always preaches. That was a chance where it could have happened, and now the battle for the loose balls continue. And I don't know, they're going to call a foul here. Grappling for the ball may not have been intentional, but Perry got wrapped around the neck.
Now take a look at this. Perry had the steal right there. And they're going to say he had possession, and that's where the arm came over the top and enough to blow the whistle on Waylon Napper.
Unintentional chokehold by Napper, the man with the Band-Aid over the right eye.
Both teams playing hard early on. The physicality has certainly been there. North Texas was the only team this season to hold Southern Miss under 20 rebounds. So watch that board battle throughout the day. Bell tries to split a couple defenders, and he's hacked on his way to the cup. Couple free throws on the way for the redshirt senior.
No Mean Green player has a better nose for the paint than Thomas Bell. He realizes where he can create, either as a scorer or as a passer, is on his way down the lane. And like you said, does a nice job splitting the timbers to get in there. This is a part of his game that he'd love to improve at as March approaches, and that is knocking him down at the stripe.
56% shooter from the free throw line. Gets the first one to rattle home. Over 12 points per game. You mentioned the foul trouble that he had last time out, but he's a really physical player. Really, it's his game day in, day out. Rebounds, blocks, and also drawing those fouls. That's why he would really like to add the free throw line to his arsenal, because really could make him a well-rounded player for Grant McCaslin and company.
Definitely a stat stuffer in every other category, but free throws are sometimes the things that win you games, and he definitely showed that in the Florida Atlantic ball game. North Texas trying to get after every loose ball, win the 50-50 battles, but Southern Miss has some quick hands. Nothing's coming easy here.
Not at all. That one last touch by Southern Miss on a battle of the baseline. Mean Green still doubling up the Golden Eagles early on, but Southern Miss, you can see the effort there from Napper. Had 3 gray jerseys on the baseline as he was going for that loose ball, but just couldn't get there in time.
Well, and Jay Ladner really having to go deeper on his bench. He's having to play reserves. He's got a team that is banged up but very competitive, and I really think you have to give the head coach a lot of credit for keeping the focus there.
McBride from downtown drops it. His first three-point make, number 57 of the season for North Texas. The Mean Green's leading three-point threat.
Drez the Drainer, if he gets an open look from the perimeter, he is money.
Largest lead for North Texas here on the night so far. Going back to your point, though, it's a Southern Miss team that's won just 6 games this season. The credit for them to make the trip. Thomas Bell makes the trip to the rim.
7 newcomers and junior college players. And Jay Ladner, an MK Turk devotee, obviously understands the tradition at Southern Miss, and is a guy that you root for. He's going to work through some tough times because there's no quit in this team, and sometimes when you get to this point, you can see that. But we're not finding that with Southern Miss.
See it on that possession. Nice job to keep it in bounds. Still trying to find an open man. Southern Miss really struggling against the top scoring defense in the country, but they do get an extra chance as they tip it back out to Napper.
Deflections, sometimes as good as rebounds. They keep possessions alive, and had it not been for that, they wouldn't have had another crack at it. And look at that, quick hands, trying to make sure that's a one-man show underneath by Denaje Harris, and that's just sticking to it. If a team has any quit in them, plays like that don't happen.
A sophomore from Columbus, Mississippi, and transfer from Southwest Mississippi Community College. You said it right there, just basically waited for Thomas Bell to rip down that rebound, and he had a point-blank look at the basket. They get a defensive stop to add to it.
First miss by Usman, who had gotten some really good looks on the inside. That was not a bad look. He's counted on to finish those, but Southern Miss has a chance to get a little run going here.
That one from the left side of the key, gets his own miss, and he had another great look at the basket, but Napper could not finish on the second chance.
Waylon Napper, not the tallest guy, but he comes in there soaring after the miss and should have been rewarded for his extra effort, and fortunately for him, he's not.
And you see the number down at the bottom, 12 straight wins for North Texas, 2 away from a program record as McBride pulls the trigger from downtown. The drive from Bolden, he's fouled. Free throws to come for Rashawn Bolden, playing with 2 fouls already, and that's another thing to keep in mind. With 4 starters out throughout the game, or at least players with starting potential on this Southern Miss roster, some of these players are going to have to play with more fouls to their total. Normally, Rashad Bolden, with 10 minutes left in the first half with a couple fouls, would most likely be sitting for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, Coach Ladner does not want to see a war of attrition in terms of fouls. And Bolden's a guy who, much like Aaron Scott for North Texas, has caught the attention of the Conference USA ranks. Twice he's been a Freshman of the Week. Those came for him earlier in the non-conference portion, but a very aggressive score, and you saw it on that drive to the basket.
Set the program record for points by a freshman in a game. 29 points against North Carolina Wilmington in a win back in the non-conference schedule. Those 2 free throws bring it back within 7. North Texas led by 11. And since then, a mini run for Southern Miss.
Reuben Jones gets that early paint touch, but then resets this very patient offense, and he's had the chance to finish it off from downtown. That's what has worked for Grant McCaslin. Giving up some looks on the interior to make sure you're going to get eventually a wide open look. Threes are great. In the paint's better in his mind, but Reuben shows his diversity there.
One of the things about Reuben Jones that's very underrated in his game as well is his three-point prowess. 31 made threes now on the season. When teams get lost looking at Tyler Perry, McBride, and then of course Thomas Bell, Reuben Jones is usually the one that takes advantage with another look the other way.
Nice job by Harris to continue to keep Southern Miss just hanging around here, and that's one thing you want to do in the first half. Don't let a big run on the road put you out of contention.
Perry back up top to Bell, thought about the drive, instead backs down, takes it all the way up to the rim, and couldn't finish, but it's Aaron Scott, the freshman, with the board, and tried to flip the court with a pass. Last touched by the Golden Eagles. It'll stay with North Texas.
Southern Miss tries to get on the run up that left alley, but Margarez McBride at midcourt just quick enough to knock the ball right off of the Golden Eagle. Look at that play right there. That saves it after Scott had a great rebound, but then telegraphed a pass across the way. And so you know Grant McCaslin, attention to detail, is going to be talking to his team about just making sure those little passes are not lazy, because that's how Southern Miss can be in this game.
Perry fouled on the drive. Napper pushing off. That's his second foul.
Well, you made a great point a moment ago. Southern Miss just in a precarious position in terms of a depleted roster, and now a couple of key guys who normally would probably be headed to the bench with 2 fouls, but you don't have that luxury.
It's already 7 fouls, putting North Texas in the bonus. 1-on-1 on the way for Perry. Very good free throw shooter. Drops the first of 2. Waylon Napper, Denaje Harris, Rashad Bolden, all with a pair of fouls already to their total.
Right, and this is on a night where Stevenson, Pierre, and Arnold are not available. We didn't think that was the case when we showed up in the gym. That was all late developing, and Stevenson, I think, is a guy who's just finally, you know, the toil of a season where you're the focus. He's just a little banged up. They may try to get him refueled and ready for Frisco.
4th in the conference in rebounds per game, 4th in field goal percentage. Over 14 points per game, 7 rebounds per game for Tyler Stevenson, and he is not available tonight. Step back 3 for Bolden, left it short, almost got the friendly bounce, but there's Thomas Bell with another carom.
That's a patient rebound and having timing, because that could have easily gone back the other way, but Bell just knows when to jump at the right time. Where he's true for the team is believe, serve, and compete, and he always sets a good example in all 3 of those areas, and that's serving. And servant leaders obviously have influenced his life, and it carries over. And that's one of the great things that a coach can do, is not only embellish the X's and O's, but make some other statements that these kids are always going to remember. And that's one of the great things about Grant McCaslin.
He has done nothing but win here at North Texas. Arrived on campus in 2017, now in his 5th season with the Mean Green. He's already won a regular season conference championship, a conference tournament title, and they are just 2 wins away, and that's without a UAB or La Tech loss, from locking up the Western Division and securing the top seed heading in to the Conference USA tournament in Frisco coming up in a couple weeks.
Magic number of 2 heading into tonight, and with a crucial game at home on Saturday. That's why this game has the complete attention of North Texas. Southern Miss, a worthy foe with a record that's not that impressive, but North Texas is thinking about bigger things, knowing that Southern Miss is in the middle of all that right now, and they're in the middle and in trouble in the paint. Kick out, cannot convert the threes, and Southern Miss probably is hoping the 3 ball is going to bring them back in this game, but North Texas has a way of taking those away. That's another part of their great defensive stats this year, is just holding people well off the mark from downtown.
Holding teams to 29% defensively from beyond the arc. That's tops in the conference. Again, Usman with a defender draped all over him, goes over the top of Tyler Moorman. He has 8 points here in this first half.
As a freshman, he showed some panic on plays like that and would rush it. As a sophomore, panic has been replaced by patience and production. And another loose ball that North Texas will scrape for, but Southern Miss gets the kind roll. They got to hustle a little bit here.
And Bolden takes it all the way to the cup. North Texas just didn't have a chance to get back on defense there after what looked to be an early turnover.
Well, Bolden's most comfortable taking jumpers, but he went on the drive there, and there's an errant 3 from Tyler Perry, who you normally see knocking those down.
He has the range to knock it down from that area. If Southern Miss is going to give him a window, he's normally going to take it. That one well off the mark, and Southern Miss will look to take advantage.
I think another problem for Southern Miss is all these changing lineups, and that was a pass that goes in.
Indication of his accuracy.
Now, Southern Miss is not interested in trying to create any kind of chaos in backcourt. They get back and get settled in defensively. Little 2-3 look here, it would appear, and North Texas will have to try to attack the zone, and on the inside, Scott, who normally has very good hands, lets that one slip through.
Yeah, hot pass from McBride, and the freshman from Spring, Texas could not hold on.
Well, what do they say about the zone? You can either shoot your way out of it or you can go right at it, and North Texas tried to do the latter.
Drive to the left from Bolden. Pulls up in the middle of the key, left it short. Scott with a strong board.
Well, one and done for Southern Miss. Can't afford to settle on shots that aren't exactly right now if you're trying to make that closing gap here before halftime. You got 5.5 minutes, still plenty of time to do that.
They're on a 6-0 run at the moment. North Texas once led 25-10. Back up top, Tyler Perry with an open 3, much to the delight of the North Texas faithful.
Not going to clank 2 in a row if you're Tyler Perry. And again, that deliberate offense becomes part of your defense. It's like a football team that runs the ball. You're taking time of possession and opportunities away, and Southern Miss having just some tough luck around the rim. But they're getting second chances.
Shooting just 25% from the field, and another turnover there as Bolden was going baseline and just stepped out with the right foot. Second chances have been there for Southern Miss throughout the game. Of course, this is a Golden Eagle squad that was held to just 17 rebounds, a season low by North Texas in their first meeting back on January 27th. However, you really do look at it today as a much more even rebounding category, which plays in favor of Southern Miss if they can make some of these shots. They've had open looks to go along with it.
Well, they're going to go deep on the roster here as Mark Jackson, freshman from Estonia, comes in. They got some guys in there that are itching to play. Maybe they can get after it, like you said, on the glass and in other places because they haven't had as many minutes during the year.
Usman with 8 points already tries to add to that total, and he does get the friendly roll. 10 first half points for Usman at home.
9-0 on the year for North Texas when Abu Usman, the sophomore from Brooklyn, has 5 or more made field goals. He's already achieved that, and we're not yet to the halftime.
Leads all scorers at the moment. First player in double figures. That one tried to go into the corner, but it caroms off of the rim, and the ricochet goes in favor of North Texas. Back down low to Usman, who takes another try at the rim. He's fouled. Free throws to come for the big man.
Taking it right to Pinckney there on the right block. And as you talk about free throws, here's another young man who's averaging double digits, but probably could be around 12 to 13, 14 a game if he can get the stroke down at the line. Big guy is just above 50% at the stripe.
Had 9 points, 9 rebounds in the win against UAB, and what a weapon he's been throughout the season for Grant McCaslin. You talk about some of the big men around the Conference USA, and Usman's had to go toe-to-toe with all of them. La Tech, Western Kentucky, and then, of course, UAB again on Saturday. And Usman has not backed down in any of those contests. He's actually, like you mentioned earlier, improved as the season has gone along.
Yeah, Jamarian Sharp, 7'6". Trey Jimison, one of the best-built men in Conference USA, a former Clemson player at 7'2". He's definitely had some great tests and has risen to that occasion, which is highly encouraging for a sophomore. A lot of things being taken away on the baseline right now, and Aaron Scott, the freshman, with really good defense.
That rotation has been phenomenal for Grant McCaslin's team. They lost Bolden for a split second, but he couldn't pull the trigger. Instead,
easier for Grant McCaslin because Tyler Perry knew all about this place thanks to Jeffrey.
Grant McCaslin has strong ties to the junior college ranks, as does Coach Jay Ladner, both of which took a look at Tyler Perry because of his prowess at the junior college level. But Grant McCaslin saying as soon as he knew that North Texas, as there was a fantastic block on the defensive end of the floor by Aaron Scott.
Yeah, that was owed to Jeffrey Simpson, who had 119 of those in his career. Nice little sweep of the carom there.
But as soon as Grant McCaslin learned that Tyler Perry had grown up a North Texas fan, he knew it was a must-have for his program. You've seen that blossom into what has been a fantastic season for Tyler Perry and company.
Meanwhile, DeAndre Pinckney, I think, has had enough of Usman getting the ball down low, and you can see a little of the frustration on that foul. Well, every coaching staff has to have members of that staff that can find players, and Matt Breyer does a great job along with Ross Hodge, Jareem Dowling for North Texas in that regard, and so the junior college knowledge can really help out because you can get some finds there. Thomas Bell was the guy that was not highly recruited and was seen last minute unexpectedly at a junior college tournament. So you go there looking for certain players. Sometimes you find diamonds in the rough, and that's certainly the case here at North Texas. They've shined some diamonds in the last 5 years.
Usman goes for his second perfect trip from the line, and he converts. A very good first half for Abu Usman. North Texas growing what is one of their largest leads of the night. 34-16 our score, under 3 to play in the first half.
Well, again, if you're Southern Miss, this is a difficult environment to play against a really good team, and especially with cobbled together lineups, and you see that they're just not quite in sync because this particular fivesome probably hadn't played a whole lot of minutes together.
Had been 4th straight games with the same starting lineup, the longest streak for Southern Miss throughout the season. Instead, they have both Mo Arnold, Tyler Stevenson out, and Coach Jay Ladner having to make some last-second adjustments to his starting lineup. Napper in, Harris in, both of which very comfortable in the starting lineup. As there you see Bolden take a shot that was well contested from the baseline. They just haven't had the open looks, and when they haven't connected efficiently throughout against this North Texas defense. There's an open look for McBride, and he can't connect either.
Normally one that goes down when he gets that much space, but again, about 2 minutes left to go here, and for Southern Miss, you just want to go in that locker room knowing you've captured some momentum. Sometimes it's hard to get that at the free throw line, but they're willing to sacrifice now to hopefully get there. And again, North Texas now has placed Southern Mississippi in the bonus.
Perry called for the foul, though it was McBride who really came strong over the top, and Bolden will head to the free throw stripe for a couple.
It's a little like playing football inside the lane. You see teams crashing together and players soaring high and trying to take big swats. Very physical in the college game. And fouls are down across the nation, Kyle, which is good. I think a couple of years ago, it kind of got out of control, just too many free throw shooting contests. But you got to call it when you got to call it, and that was definitely a clubbing.
Bolden connects on the second of 2. Mean Green leading by 17, growing closer to the half. It was a 4-point game at the half in the first meeting between these two back in the month of January. Usman again bounding his way down low, and like you said a couple moments ago, Southern Miss doing a great job of keeping him out of the paint, but they keep putting him at the free throw line as well.
We mentioned Usman could be a 12 to 14 point per game scorer if he could just get the free throw rhythm down. So far in this game, he's gotten in a nice lather at the stripe. See if he can continue it here.
4 of 4, now 5 of 5 from the stripe today.
Down 33 pounds since he checked in from New York. 1 of 11, the middle sibling of a family of 11 in a 2-bedroom apartment. Shared a room with 4 brothers. He's loving the dorm life here in Denton. A little extra space, right?
For somebody his size as well, 6'10", he would probably utilize every inch of that extra space.
Well, every team has a strength coach that they rely upon to kind of mold players, especially young players. And Andrew Wright is the guy for North Texas. Back door, and that is an emphatic finish for Southern Miss. A little bit of momentum is all we said they needed. That's the kind of play that will get you going, because even the crowd here has to ooh and ah about that high-flying escapade.
Harris not only had a low pass on his break to the cup, but had to reel it in, reset in midair, and flush it home. And he did so with contact, so he has a chance for a 3-point play. How about that? Najee Harris, who's been thrusted into the starting role, 8th time this season he's been in the starting lineup, and he can't connect on the 3-point play. He's 0 of 2 from the line today. But maybe that's enough to really propel Southern Miss and buy a little bit of time going into the halftime break with some positivity. Usman again, wide open down low, can't finish. Thomas Bell flies in for the board. He's fouled on his way to the hoop.
Typical of Thomas Bell and his ability to get on the glass at the right time. He gets the ball underneath the basket after that rebound and then tried a little bit of English that didn't go, but again, earning a trip to the free throw line. And between Bell and Usman, they've stayed out of foul trouble and they've made huge impacts in this first half.
Both of which have had a chance to leave their mark from the free throw line. Here you see the number down at the bottom of the screen. Over 10 fouls already for Southern Miss. Keep that in mind as we get into that second half. Who gets in foul trouble for Coach Ladner, and where are those adjustments going to be made? Because right now North Texas has been dominant on the post, and Southern Miss is in foul trouble. It's not a great combination.
No, and you see Jeffrey Armstrong coming back in. Just some players for Southern Miss that have not been in the rotation, but because of 3 pivotal players being out tonight, Jay Ladner is having to open up the bench.
Final 90 seconds of the first half. Napper brings it down the floor. The sophomore transfer from Dodge City Community College. Another talented junior college transfer. Lots of those on the floor tonight. We'll address that a little later on. He lost that one for a split second, but was able to shift it to the freshman Bolden. Just 6 to shoot.
Big mismatch inside.
Napper elects to take it from deep NBA range.
J.J. Murray, such a pest. He's against a 6'10 Isaiah Moore, but was able to box out and allow a teammate to get the rebound.
Scott with a pump fake, now in the lane, gets it to fall, back iron and in.
I would submit to you that's one of the tougher shots you see anyone have to take. You're so far in that it's not a shot you're really practicing through the course of an offensive set, and yet Aaron Scott has really good touch for a freshman.
Nice pass to the driving Moore, but he walked with it. Took an extra step before laying down the dribble. And with 28.7 left on the clock, North Texas will have a chance for the final possession.
Yes, and a chance to really make this a big spread at the break. The challenge for North Texas in the second half is, can they be as sharp? And obviously for Southern Miss, what they talk about in the locker room is, hey, it's next man up mentality. Lots of guys are going to get a chance to play, so if you haven't been out there, make this your night to make a dent. Players like Tate Ryder, who just checked in.
North Texas leading by 20. Southern Miss with some foul trouble, some poor shooting.
For Jay Ladner is, can I get some of these newcomers to actually help me get back in the game in the second half?
See who North Texas draws this up against. Grant McCaslin, not one to waste a possession, especially when you have an opportunity to practice for upcoming March Madness that may ensue. Scott on the drive, baseline, kicks back up to McBride, who steps back for three at the buzzer, no good. Scott picked it up on the rebound, but he was unable numbers.
Well, there's a coach at Texas Tech who's built his reputation on defense, and I think he's the one that's really taught the Ross Hodges about the value of the slow offense really helping you build a defense. And there you go, 50-50 balls, deflections, and North Texas definitely knows they could deliver a knockout punch. Southern Miss wants to make sure they don't allow that between the start of the second half and that first media timeout of the second half. I think you'll find out a lot about the medal. And look at this. There's a steal. Southern Miss still very interested in this.
Napper goes all the way to the lane, a steal and a score. 4 points for him in the ball game, and that's exactly what Southern Miss needed. They need a couple defensive stops and to get the easy, high-percentage looks, some of which that they weren't able to get in that first half. North Texas did send all the starters back out to begin the second half of play, including Reuben Jones, who has it now and pulls up in the middle of the lane. Wants his own miss back, doesn't get it, but J.J. Murray is there to clean up, and now McBride lets it fly from deep. Another offensive board.
Well, North Texas just taking away chances from Southern Miss and keeping their own possession alive until the big man finishes it off, and that's a rewarding possession for all five Mean Green players on the floor.
There you see the pace of play, foul called. The North Texas faithful was ready to explode with the effort of Abu Usman getting back down the floor in what looked to be a block initially, but instead it's free throws from the line for DeAndre Pinckney.
Little tough to get the favorable reaction when you're driving right into the Mean Green Maniacs, the student crew. Even though school has been out for a day and a half, they've been on campus and getting ready for this game, and they've made a big difference in the environment here at the Super Pit. They were hoping for a block call. Instead, it was a foul call. Pretty good crowd here tonight when you consider how bad the weather has been. That shows the buy-in, and I think on Saturday with Louisiana Tech coming in, if the weather clears, this place could be in for a raucous turnout.
Should be a good one. That could be the clincher for North Texas. A win today would push that magic number down to 1. They would be 3 games up with 3 to play, ultimately just needing to nix the tie-breaking opportunities that would be at hand. And a win on Saturday would, of course, do that against Louisiana Tech. But like you mentioned earlier, that was a game that went down to the wire in Ruston. North Texas winning on a Tyler Perry buzzer beater with 4.9 seconds left on the clock. And La Tech hasn't forgotten that. The Bulldogs will be coming with vengeance on the mind.
North Texas, again, not going to get in any kind of hurry. They know the shot clock's down, but there's a telegraph pass. And, you know, Napper's the kind of player whose aggressive Bulldog mentality is something you have to admire. He picked up his 3rd foul a moment ago, but he's not afraid to get in the middle of that play and risk injury and foul trouble to try to stay on the floor.
He's been playing really good basketball as of late. He was a NCAA first-team All-American, much like Tyler Perry was at the junior college level a year ago. He had 21 points against UTSA to go along with 7 boards. And that one called for the travel before Bolden could elevate. The freshman turns it over. You can see that fight still into the second half. Jay Ladner laid into his team at halftime, and you can see the results here, but just a couple of extra mistakes have been all it's taken to really keep them off their rhythm.
Oh, I agree. He's doing everything he can from a coaching standpoint to keep this team ignited. I'll guarantee you, Abu Usman, as good as he's played, will be critiqued for the 2 times he tried to tip a loose ball out rather than grab it by both hands. Here he's trying to get out of the doghouse by drawing a foul underneath. He's not in too much of a doghouse, but one thing that North Texas prides itself on is grabbing the ball with 2 hands and trying to control it. Here you see Usman rolling off that shoulder, and that's a move that's really developed this year for him. That could be pretty hard to stop the next couple years.
Lost his defender, and Isaiah Moore had no other opportunity to really get in front of Usman and ultimately had to settle for the foul.
Boy, he looks like a world-class free throw shooter tonight, and that's a great sign for a guy who's been bubbling around 50% as you head into tournament time. To have a little reservoir of confidence in a game like this that's developed for him at the line could really be big.
6 of 7 from the line so far. Make it 7 of 8. Somebody's been in the gym putting in some extra work, and Usman has 19 points, just 3 off of his career high.
North Texas trying to maintain that 20-point edge. Napper finds a cutter, and another high-flying finish for Southern Miss. When they've done things well, they've done it above the rim.
Absolutely. They go strong to the hole. They've had a couple opportunities for the three-point play. They haven't finished on any of them, but now Pinckney goes back to the free throw line where he's had a perfect night so far. 6 points to his total. Chance to add on one straight in front of the student section, and he drills it.
Well, and about Usman will check out, knowing that sometimes down low you can't be a spaz about it. You've got to just settle down and know that it's coming right at you. But hard to critique what few things Abu has done wrong with what he's done right tonight. He has created that presence in the post.
Only had 1 foul going into halftime. Now he's got 3 to his total, but because of the lead and the depth that Grant McCaslin has on the bench, he really has no trouble taking their team's leading scorer on the night out of the ball game for a couple of moments. Here's Bell on the drive, just 8 to shoot, and he goes back out to Perry. Very good down the stretch in the shot clock with a hand in his face. Wasn't able to drill that one. Rebound goes to Waylon Napper. Napper ahead on the fast break, and a foul called. Moore couldn't finish on the dunk, but he has a chance for 2 from the line.
Well, like you said, a lot of these opportunities at the rim are not ending up in flushes, and there wasn't a whole lot of contact on that, but enough to affect Moore and his ability to finish it off.
You can see a clear, concise thought process for Coach Napper's ball club out of the halftime break, and that is attack the paint. They are not taking the perimeter, not settling for the outside shots. They are going straight into the hole, and they're trying to drive each and every possession.
Well, the 3-ball can bring you back, but Ladner's trying to go ahead and set the tone for what needs to happen moving forward. And it's been a rough year. They've had a tough time, even though this is a team that's not been blown out very many times. They've hung in a lot of games. And you know, what you're trying to do is sell a little bit of hope down the stretch and hope you can make some noise that'll help you in recruiting and just create the vibe that you want as you continue to try to build a program. Nice stutter step. That pass is way off the mark. And Perry, a good ball handler and normally a little bit better at the pass, was not in rhythm with Thomas Bell.
Wanted to elevate for the alley-oop and sent it a tad bit high for Bell. Turnover number 10 of the ball game for North Texas, and the Golden Eagles turn it into 2 points. Napper now up to 6 on the night. Napper. And all of a sudden, Southern Miss back down by 14, closing the gap.
And Napper plays with such great pace. He's something, if you're a Golden Eagles fan, that you want to, you know, hold out good hope for him, because he's going to be a really nice player. And tonight, he's willed himself to get this team back inside, you know, good digits. But North Texas continues the onslaught on the interior. And that's a freshman in Aaron Scott, who, as they say, at this point in the year, he's not a freshman anymore. He's playing pretty salty underneath.
4 points for him tonight. 6'7", 190 pounds. He's bulked up even from the beginning of the season here in Denton. But prior to that bucket, Southern Miss had outscored North Texas 10-4 since the halftime break. The largest lead for the Mean Green has been
led North Texas to their biggest clutch win ever in the NCAA tournament.
Finding his rhythm with the Texas Legends. There's Bolden trying to find rhythm for Southern Miss down the stretch.
Yeah, it's a nice play out of the inbounds by Jay Ladner, stealing a page out of the Bill Self book. Get you some points right out of the sideline, out of bounds.
You love yourself some Bill Self.
Well, I think a lot of coaches like to steal what Self does in terms of getting points quickly when you get back on the floor. It settles things down, gives you some buy-in. And North Texas back to their slow motion offense with Bell on the finish.
Taking the entire shot clock down, and Bell couldn't find the bottom of the net. Nice rebound by Isaiah Moore. Bolden with a hot hand tries to take it again from the baseline, left it short. That's one of the things that Southern Miss has eradicated here in the second half. They have really fallen away from the tough contested shots in the rushed possessions. Instead, they've really set up and done a nice job of getting high percentage looks. That was not one of them.
No, but a tip at him. Once again, what did Perry do? He grabbed it with both hands. He didn't stab at it, and that allows for a deep shot to be swished. And that's the key. If you can buy into what deflections And extra effort means, in terms of getting you a second look at it, when you've got shooters like North Texas has, well, that's where the daggers come from.
2 threes for McBride, now up to 58 on the season. Knocked out. J.J. Murray and McBride combining to just pester on the defensive end right after McBride connected from downtown on the offensive end.
10 toes to the rim shooter. When you get it to McBride standing alone, he's money in the bank. And he's been one of the hottest Mean Green players really since about midway through Conference USA play. Doesn't always get talked about a lot because you're focused on Bell and you're focused on Perry. But McBride, definitely a guy that knows what March is about. He got hot at the right time last year.
Made clutch 3 down the stretch against WKU in the Conference USA title game a year ago. In his first season with the Mean Green, now with his second year in Denton. There's Thomas Bell on the drive. Scott rips down the board, finds Bell again, who's fouled, and he'll have free throws, unable to finish at the cup. But the second chance opportunities, offensive rebounding very much so in favor of North Texas here in the second half.
Well, it's an odd thing, and you have to think about it, but Grant McCaslin always says, take good shots. If you miss good shots, we're going to get offensive rebounds. Well, those were good shots on the interior. They didn't all fall, but North Texas, again, on the O-glass, really eating things up.
And Bell, who had a 2 of 2 trip from the line earlier, misses the first. Second one on the way is good, but like you said, that's one of the extra aspects of his game that he would like to improve upon, and that is from the free throw stripe, kind of rounding things out as an all-around physical player.
Well, he had some moments in the win in Boca Raton where free throws were there to ice the game, so he's had some experience in recent vintage of getting to the line when it mattered, and crowd getting a little grumbling with what they think are ticky-tack fouls. This crew's done a pretty good job in a game that has been one-sided most of the night.
We mentioned Southern Miss in the first half with foul trouble. They still have 4 different players with 3 fouls to their total. Nobody with 4 yet. North Texas has a pair of them, and that's Usman and Tyler Perry with 3 fouls. That was the second for McBride. They're going to give that shot all the time to Moorman. Now down low, Moore backs down, takes it on the fadeaway, and he's hacked there.
Reuben Jones has defended some of the best in the nation this year. That time he lost the matchup. And Moore's pretty difficult because when he does that turnaround, he's already at 6'10" with pretty good touch. Hard to defend even if you're an athletic 6'5" player like Reuben Jones.
Both teams have had their fill from the free throw line today. North Texas 15 of 20. This will be free throws 14 and 15 for Southern Miss. So it has been a large proponent of both teams' scoring outputs.
Well, still 13-20 left to go in this game. So as you try to stay in it, points when the clock is stopped are of great importance. And now we'll have a quick sub back in. Murray, the defensive specialist, checks out, and McBride, just a small breather on the bench, back in.
Perry, Jones, McBride, Bell, and Scott on the floor for Grant McCaslin in the Mean Green. On the opposite side, it's Bolden, Pinckney, Moore, and there's a 3 for Reuben Jones. His second from downtown tonight.
Silky southpaw who just got caught up in a big screen. A lot of contact there. Now there's another loose ball, but Southern Miss able to get that 50-50 variety. Shot clock's going to continue to roll here, and they need to keep that in mind as it's going to get down to around 10 now.
9 to shoot, and they called it off the ball prior to the bucket.
Yeah, Jay Ladner's got an incredulous look. He wants an explanation, but that's an offensive player control foul on Bolden.
Student section getting after Ladner. Took the explanation pretty well, and there you see the push off. Wipes off a bucket from Bolden, who's had a pretty solid second half so far. Here's Thomas Bell, splits a couple defenders, goes all the way to the hoop, and rolls it home.
Set the screen, rolled off it, and then went into attack mode. Thomas Bell hadn't had a lot of luck close to the rim, but finished that off in fine fashion. And again, on the inside, Isaiah Moore starting to put together, statistically, a pretty good night. Moore
now with 9 points to go along with 4 rebounds. He's only had 2 makes from the field. 5 of his 9 have come from the free throw line. This one again from downtown for Reuben Jones. 2 of the last 3 possessions have ended from downtown for North Texas.
Just not fair if you're Southern Miss. You're worried about Perry, you're worried about Drez McBride, and suddenly Reuben Jones decides he's going to show you what he can do as a southpaw shooter.
6 triples for the Mean Green have fallen tonight.
And he breathes a lot of life into the room. He's a player's coach for sure.
And throughout a long season, we've seen him wear many hats. You mentioned recruiter,
big
mentioned
hats.
The experience. He's had some big hats as well. But he's also, he's been the one that's broken up fights. He's been the one that's started fights. He's been the one that's gone outside and gone viral on Twitter by videoing Grant McCaslin scraping off coaches' ice off of their windshields. He does a little bit of everything for this Mean Green program.
It always takes a village, Kyle, and you need a lot of different personalities. And when you can get the right guys in the room that all stay in their lanes but know exactly what to do, then you have a great staff. And McCaslin has definitely put together an eclectic but really productive bunch of guys, and they all, like I said, they all know exactly what it is they do best. And that's one of the reasons North Texas is on the roll they're on right now.
North Texas tapped to finish 6th in the Conference USA preseason poll, and instead they are just a couple wins away from securing another divisional title in Conference USA and setting themselves for success at the tournament in Frisco down the road. Thomas Bell again with an acrobatic try at the rim. Could not finish that one after he did so a couple seconds earlier.
East St. Louis product will be frustrated with the number of misses at close range. Here he tries to set up and take a charge, and no dice. So some of the things that Thomas Bell routinely does well, not coming as easy tonight. He was trying to take what would have been the 38th charge of the season. Did he get there in time? Maybe not.
Taking a look at the replay.
How close to that line was he?
He was pretty close.
Yeah.
Southern Miss going to get the benefit of the doubt, though.
And Bell now saddled with 3.
It's now 5 different players for North Texas with 3 fouls each, surpassing Southern Miss. Here's another look at the foul call. Napper on the drive right. Look at the feet of Bell. Maybe a tad bit of movement from that left foot.
Well, I think Bell would argue, hey, I've been doing this all year. I'm pretty good at it. But in a game where the score is a 20-point advantage, he's not going to argue. And unfortunately for Southern Miss, they're not able to cash in at the line there. And as you hit the midway point of this second half, you wonder how much gas can be left in the tank for the Golden Eagles. Coming in, missing 3 big parts.
4 if you count Tay Hardy, who hasn't played since November 26th against Montana. He was one of their leading scorers at nearly 14 points per game and was one of those returners for the Golden Eagles that they had a lot of high expectations for. Bolden left that one in the air, ripped out of thin air by J.J. Murray, ahead to Scott for the slam.
There have been some close misses around the rim, but not for the freshman from Spring, Texas. A big filler up from Aaron Scott.
Credit to J.J. Murray and Tyler Perry for looking ahead and keeping their head up, moving down the floor. Napper wants this one from downtown, and he drills it off the back.
He's a determined warrior, and he's had some good moments tonight.
Only Southern Miss player in double figures at the moment with 10 points to his total. Mean Green have a plus 13 mark in points off turnovers. They lead that category 19-6. How about Usman, who works his way free on the baseline for a flush?
Flushes are going down here in the second half. North Texas trying to get the highest percentage opportunities while also bleeding the clock if they are allowed to, just to try to take some more air out of the tires here against a Southern Miss team that's got to be weary. Their plane was not allowed to leave because of the weather, and so early in the morning they left Reed Green Coliseum and boarded a bus, and those are tough days, you know, late in the season when you've already had a taxing year and you've got some banged up players, which obviously they were more banged up than we realized. The back door being stunted by the pass, but here's Scott again to keep it alive for a hot hand.
Perry sees that one rim in and out. But to your point, 8 hours of busing, nearly 600 miles. Napper from 3, too strong off the back iron. It takes a toll on a team, not only the bus trip, but a season, a long campaign where you've only seen 6 wins to this point, and credit to this coaching staff for getting up and coming to Denton in what could have easily been a no contest. Southern Miss instead made the trip, and they've learned a lot about their squad here in this game.
Well, and Jay Ladner's learning a lot about the mettle of his guys, some of the younger guys that have been waiting in the ranks to play, and he's hoping to get some guys healthy, obviously, before Frisco. But I talked to the longtime play-by-play voice of Southern Miss, John Cox, just an icon in the industry, and I said, yeah, how'd you like that bus ride? He goes, hey, I'll take any bus ride. Leads me to a game. I'm here to call games. So even the old guy on radio is okay with it. And John does a phenomenal job calling Golden Eagle football, basketball, and baseball, which has great support in Hattiesburg.
No doubt about it. They'll be hosting the Conference USA Baseball Championships this year. Normally a regular in that title game. They have always been very good at the baseball level. And, of course, North Texas without a baseball team in their athletic department, but Southern Miss very dominant. And you mentioned John Cox. I mean, credit to him. Like you said, if there's anybody who's going to give up on a bus ride, it's not John Cox.
No.
44 seasons as the voice of the Golden Eagles, 6th longest tenured Division I radio play-by-play guy in the country.
Heck, he's got the radio booth is named after him at The Rock. So, I mean, a beloved figure.
When is Hank Dickinson getting a booth here?
I don't. That's going to be a while. Here is J.J. Murray knocking down the three. And, you know, early on, J.J. Murray was a walk-on. And then he earned his way onto the team as a defensive specialist. But this year, he's added the three-point arsenal. Sweeping rebound there, Kyle. That shows you where effort still lives. It lives in the form of Waylon Napper.
Yeah, he does a great job of closing in off of the miss. By the way, you mentioned J.J. Murray, now 23s on the season. Not a scoring threat, but if he has an open shot, he certainly has the green light from Coach McCaslin to pull the trigger, and he has done so on a number of occasions throughout the year, sometimes in clutch moments. McBride, all of last year as well, them and national champion Baylor, the only two squads to not change their starting lineup a season ago, and of course they've had 25 of 25 so far this year. McBride a part of that, and they don't want to see anybody banged up heading into the tournament in Frisco, especially with the expectations they have at hand.
And McCaslin, obviously a Scott Drew disciple, played at Baylor, still a very active alum there, and it's interesting that those two coaches are very much alike in terms of let's find what works and let's stay with it, barring injury. Let's not disrupt it.
There's an open look. Driving was Napper, and he caught it on the elevation and laid it in. Napper has come alive here in the second half. You mentioned him as being a bright spot for Southern Miss. He has 14 points on 6 of 10 shooting.
Well, I think that coming out of the timeout shows that Jay Ladner is trying to celebrate his effort tonight and reward him. And there's a big collision. Let's see where this goes. Napper is going to be in some trouble there with the blocking foul. Only thing that can slow him down tonight is the foul trouble, and he's now saddled with 4.
Third player in the ball game with 4. Both Thomas Bell and Reuben Jones have 4 to their total on the North Texas side. Mean Green have held on to this 20-point-ish lead all the way through the latter parts of the first half, but there have been a lot of things tonight that North Texas would like to clean up prior to Saturday against La Tech, and a team against the Bulldogs that's going to come in hungry against this Mean Green ball club.
Probably in the mind of Grant McCaslin, too many misses at close range, and here's Abu Usman, who routinely was hitting that same shot in the first half. Again, you're starting to wear down a little bit. There's a physicality to the game. It's not going to be as easy. But I think the close range misses for Bell and Usman will be discussed, although what Usman has done at the free throw line to this point will be a big positive.
7 of 8 so far. This one would tie his career high. And he'll have to wait for the next one. He set that previous career high against Marshall earlier in the season. You knew going into the year that Abu Usman was going to have a bigger workload. Had just 7.5 minutes per game last year. Zachary Simmons was in his final season with the Mean Green, and since then, Usman has not only entered into that starting role down in the post, but he has excelled at it to a number of occasions. That was his worst trip from the line today after only missing 1 throughout his previous 7 attempts, but you still can't knock what kind of impact Usman's had on this ball game.
Or the young man that just corralled that offensive rebound to keep it alive, Aaron Scott. That's such an alert play late in the game, not falling asleep in the lane and grabbing that. Gives North Texas another crack at it, and they'll go inside again. But Usman not finding it as easy in the second half near the cup.
Made the perfect move, $1 million move to the rim. Couldn't finish for two, as there's a three-point try from beyond the arc for Isaiah Moore. Just a 30% shooter from beyond the arc, but unable to knock that one down with no one in front. North Texas very comfortable letting this shot clock dwindle, taking up all the time on their possession and letting Usman work. He gives it to Murray, shifts it to Scott down low, who's fouled on his way to the lay-in try.
Aaron Scott hoping to get a kind rim there, but now we'll head to the line, and that's pretty vintage of what North Texas has done all year, giving up a good look for a better look, being unselfish and not worrying about how much time is left on the shot clock. 358 Division I teams to be 358th in tempo and to be winning with that style. Very reminiscent of what Virginia has done. In fact, the previous 6 seasons, they've been the slowest tempo, and so, you know, you get a real appreciation for what Grant McCaslin's trying to get done.
It's very interesting if that translates to good basketball, being the slowest pace out of anyone in Division I. Well, I took a look. Top 4 teams in the rankings in terms of RPI rankings at the moment. Gonzaga #1, they're 4th in pace, so they like to get up and down the floor. Then you've got Kentucky, that's #2 in that. There's a three-point try that drops from beyond the arc for Moore. They're 135th, Kentucky is. So it's a differing pace back and forth between the top teams in the country. North Texas just happens to be one of the lowest. Perry doesn't waste any time on that shot clock to drill it from beyond the arc.
Pretty easy, inside, outside, and you got a guy that can fire the shotgun from the top as well as anybody, Tyler Perry. He had one ugly shot in the first half. Everything else has been vintage of what North Texas has become accustomed to.
Perry with a quiet 14 points, and he does reel in another board as he has 6 rebounds to his total. Standing at just 5'11", that's a very underrated part of his ball game as well.
Bench is about to be used for Grant McCaslin. Matthew Stone, a freshman from Kingfisher, Oklahoma, waiting to check in. This might be the last few minutes for either Perry or Drez McBride. And if that's the curtain call, McBride says, I'll take one from downtown.
Mean Green doing everything they can late to put it on ice. McBride becomes the 4th North Texas player to have double figures. He's had 11 points in the ball game, and now 3 Mean Green defenders fighting for the same basketball underneath the cup, and it's Tyler Perry that comes up with it.
Well, if you're going to be emotionally invested in playing defense, you've got to do it when you're up 75-51, just like you do it early in the game, and that's what's making North Texas stand out from the rest of the league. And here they'll go backdoor. Good defense by Southern Miss to not fall asleep there.
Yeah, very well done. Stepping over by Pinckney. Now in transition. Bolden wants that one to fall. North Texas wants to run with the fast break again. Up ahead, Jones to McBride. He'll take it himself, and he is fouled on the way to the hoop. 4:02 left, so you'll have to wait a little bit prior to the media timeout. And you see the mass substitutions for North Texas.
McBride's been throwing himself at the rim like Evel Knievel here. I think Grant McCaslin probably would like to get him out before he hurts himself, but he'll be at the free throw line. The aforementioned Matthew Stone's going to come in. It would appear Reuben Jones' night is done for North Texas, so the point guard will get a little rest here in the final 4 minutes and get ready for Louisiana Tech.
Thomas Bell with 10 points has already been on the bench, and Jones now checks out. Those were the 2 Mean Green players with 4 fouls to their total.
And remember, when you're leading and things are fun, those guys that are just checking in, they still want to contribute. So that's the tough thing for a beleaguered Southern Miss team. And again, you talk about some of the struggles. We didn't quite realize how depleted that lineup was going to be. And Jay Ladner's doing the very best he can. They'll try to reconnoiter and get ready for Rice on Saturday. Not an easy trip.
That Texas two-step for Southern Miss, going up against the Rice team that defeated Southern Miss by 14 the first time around. That one in Hattiesburg. There's a turnover on the baseline. North Texas may have a curtain call for their starters, as they'll have mass substitutions when we come back. The Mean Green knocking down the 3 ball late, 76-51. 61. They've opened up a quarter of a century lead on Southern Miss at home.
Just minutes ago, when sophomore Tyler Perry nailed it, everyone goes home with a freebie courtesy of Wendy's. Be sure to scan the QR.
First leg of the final road trip of the season for Southern Miss. They've got a matchup at Rice that we were just talking about. The Owls won the first meeting between those two, 76-62, back on January 29th. And then they've got a tough final homestand of the regular season before coming back to Frisco, Texas. UAB Charlotte, that is not an easy 1-2 punch to round out the conference slate.
No, and one thing Coach Ladner won't be having this year is a senior day because he's got a team devoid of a senior, and yeah, that's a part of the challenge for them as well. But just hoping to maybe finish off at home with some good things for the faithful there at Reed Green. And then obviously he's going to have to get out there and try to fill some gaps. But hopefully for the Golden Eagles, Tyler Stevenson can get healthy again because that's a difference maker for them, obviously.
So mass substitutions for North Texas. Aaron Scott remains in the ball game, but Stone checks in for the first time tonight. A couple others on their way. Rasheed Brown in the ball game. There's Bryce Zephyr on the take all the way to the rim, and goaltending called along with Amir Wright. Those are the new 4 players for Grant McCaslin and company.
Bryce Zephyr now 6'4", 200, solidly built, but in high school he was just at 5'5". He was shorter than his 14-year-old sister before a growth spurt allowed him to become a college basketball player, and he's out there now not looking like the shortest guy, but a big, thick prospect. Speaking of big and thick, Tyler Moorman's had some tough times tonight, but the 6'8" junior able to spin and score here late in the game.
Second bucket of the night for him. Brown brings it down. He played in 6 games before a season-ending injury last year in community college, in Corpus Christi rather, at Texas A&M Corpus Christi and the Islanders.
Yeah, Brown's the oldest player for the Mean Green at 24, working it into Amir Wright and out to a really good high school three-point shooter, Matthew Stone. Couldn't cash in. He had over 1,500 points at Kingfisher in Oklahoma.
Led them to a 107-4 combined record in his 4 years at the varsity level. And there's a foul called as Scott goes down the floor.
Scott's trying to argue the principle of verticality there, but when you're going up against 6'10", Isaiah Moore, you better have a lot of verticality, and unable to convince the refs that he was going straight up.
It's actually a really nice job getting back on defense in what looked to be an easy fast break for Southern Miss, and at least making sure that Moore earns it from the line.
Well, for a North Texas team that really runs on 7 players, what you're seeing out here right now, outside of Aaron Scott, is as inexperienced as they can be in terms of manpower. Although Amir Wright, who just grabbed that rebound, certainly has Division I experience, over 80 games at Washington for the Huskies. Really good shot blocker, just hadn't found his groove quite yet, but could be valuable late. A throwaway and a runaway. So Southern Miss taking some aggression out, and I think they just teed him up for hanging on the rim.
That's exactly what it was. Happens every now and again. A technical foul for hanging on a rim. It's a new call, a new rule. You cannot showboat on your dunk. I don't know if I agree with that call.
Well, after 8 hours on a bus, I think I would want to take some aggression out if I was athletic enough to do that. But here's Amir Wright trying to add to his dossier. Been pretty good at the free throw line in limited samples this year.
And he drops that one. By the way, the bucket does still count for Moore. It doesn't wipe the bucket off. Ultimately, they're going to say he did a chin up on the rim, and because of that, it is a technical foul, and it turns into 2 free throws the other way for Amir Wright. You mentioned it. He's kind of a curious case for North Texas. Redshirt senior out of Albany, went to Washington all the way across the country from New York, and then finishes his career down here. He's been with the Huskies program since 2017 and played significant minutes in all but 1 game last year.
Well, he could certainly be a guy on a game where North Texas has foul trouble on the forwards that, again, has been there, done it. They'll have a chance to get after it on the interior here with a violent spin move, and Amir Wright maybe making a case for a few more minutes.
shows the depth that North Texas has on that bench for Grant McCaslin. They have their largest lead of the night, by the way. Napper back in the middle, knocked away by Wright again. Student section clamoring for Matthew Stone to get a couple opportunities here. They get him the ball, but he dropped it initially. Same thing back to Scott. Under 90 seconds to play, and it's Brown who gets the reset.
Yeah, you expect things to be a little out of sync when you get the reserves in late.
Wright takes it all the way to the rim, and he is rejected but fouled by Isaiah Moore. And there you talk about a bit of extra aggression. There's the student section sticking around. And Isaiah Moore is done for the evening, as that was his 5th.
He went out trying to get a big block, but as you can see, way too much of that arm-to-arm contact. And the benches have officially been empty here at the fabulous Super Pit.
Every single active player for both sides has worked their way into the ball game.
Yeah, you've got Tate Ryder, I believe Blake Roberts, son of former USM quarterback Lee, getting in. That kind of game for both teams when it's well in hand and late and you're getting close to March, starters winning or losing are going to get a little bit of a break.
And North Texas, we talked about their upcoming schedule a little earlier. La Tech, and there's a lane violation. They're going to redo that. Little head start in the lane for Southern Miss, but North Texas has a huge matchup coming up on Saturday against Louisiana Tech, and if they're able to hit the 3-ball like they have tonight, 9 different 3-pointers made as they've shot 53% from downtown, we're going to have a lot of success even against the Bulldogs as they can keep that perimeter shooting going.
Well, the magic number down to 1, so the Mean Green focus will shift completely to the Bulldogs, but they're going to get a Bulldog team that's angry and ready for revenge. Ball's going to stay with Southern Miss here, under a minute left to go. And you know, North Texas could have easily looked at this game as an easy one. I think they came with a game effort, and that's not real fair for Southern Miss considering how underhanded they were in terms of the kind of cogs you need to compete with North Texas. They get some 3-balls to fall late, but they were not falling early, and certainly not at a time where they could have stayed in the game.
Shot just 27% in the first half. They've been much better throughout the second. They've put up 40 points on the board on the #1 scoring defense in the country after just having 19 at halftime. So a much better second half for Coach Ladner to really build on, like you said, with a depleted roster, a depleted bench, and they've had to use all the way up into that bench. But ultimately, North Texas just way too much in this one. By the way, score updates from around Conference USA as we prepare for Brown's free throws. UAB comes out on top down in San Antonio, 68-56 the final score. And then La Tech leads it 80-74 on Stadium at the moment. 22 seconds left in that ball game down at the Tudor Fieldhouse against the Rice Owls. That is where Southern Miss will be going. Those two teams will pass each other on I-45, the trip down to Houston.
A couple of road wins, though, and they're not easy to come by. North Texas unblemished on the road. That's one of the more impressive things in a year full of stats that can make you really, you know, open up and realize what a job Grant McCaslin's doing in year number 5. This is going to be his 100th win at North Texas. One of the quickest to get to the Hondo. You got to go back to Bill Blakely, who had some legendary teams in the 70s, 80s. He got there quicker. Johnny Jones also got to 100 fairly quickly. Pete Shands, but Grant McCaslin has done it in emphatic fashion.
155 will be his record at North Texas. And if you ask those whenever he took over this team back in 2017, if he was able to get 100 wins in 5 seasons, it may have been some eye rolls in the room. It was not a great situation for him to come in, but he has done a magnificent job and was ESPN Coach of the Week this past week. He could easily be in the Coach of the Year conversation for what he's done after losing so much from a conference tournament champion and also NCAA tournament team a year ago, and what he's turned this team into here in 2022 as well.
Thomas Bell, who was a part of last year's great run, asked me the other day, do you think this team is better than last year's? And I said, I wouldn't have said that at the beginning of the year, but with 9 newcomers, it was hard to predict. But the sum of the parts may well be better than a team that upset Purdue last year. Who knows? But the bottom line is the win streak's going to move to 13, one off a school record 14 in a row, 19 wins in the last 20 games, and a big showdown upcoming on Saturday against Louisiana Tech. Everything you want for a senior day if you're North Texas.
Top 40 in the net rankings, receiving AP top 25 votes, coaches poll top 25 votes. It'll be the 100th win for North Texas, and they've got a big one on Saturday, but they take care of business